Long time no talk.
I know. I was
Ridiculous.
just life. Crazy.
Yeah, well, I actually came to the conclusion the other day that in order for me to get this book done and out, I had to put a limit on the number of pages I was willing to put in there for evidence. Because let me look at it real quick, just so you know. Let me look.
Just because there's so much evidence.
It is. The evidence is overwhelming, but what I did, because it's all, none of the evidence is my words.
Right.
That's the beauty of the evidence.
Yes.
I'm sitting right now at 272 pages of evidence.
Shit.
Now, it could be 10,000 or 100,000 or a million pages of evidence, because everything historically is evidence. Right. Everything historically is evidence.
Yes.
Because I am fully present, but so that means everything historically, history is evidence of the crime against the present.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's the crime against the present.
Yes, that is true. Wow.
Now think about it, because we, my final note right now already on the historical evidence of the crime, it says, author's final note, as this one's 46 chromosome biology is unique and exclusive to the present moment, from fertilization to last breath, I, for one, in fact, have no history. No, it's because I don't. I've never existed historically. I've never existed in history.
No, you haven't.
And neither of you, and neither has anybody else living.
Nope.
You don't pass into the past until you pass.
Exactly. So the biology don't exist. Then you can be history.
Well, your 46 chromosomes never existed ever prior to fertilization.
Correct.
And it will never exist again. So it only exists in the present.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Your biology does not exist at any other moment but the present.
I know. It's so, I just laugh sometimes about the whole idea of all the gurus telling you, be in the present moment, and how did I really come to understand that so fully in my brain? I don't always live it, but is through this study.
Well, first of all, you always are in the present, whether you like to admit to it or not.
I agree. my mind isn't. My mind likes to pretend it's not. That's the whole point.
And that's the problem with all of it, is that we can't figure out that the present moment begins at fertilization. I mean, I've asked this question to so many people lately. Like, what is the moment? What day was it when mom and dad lay together and dropped off those building materials, those 23 chromosomes? And people just get baffled by the fact that it was today. Mm-hmm.
It's so obvious that it's so simple and obvious that it's so hard to see.
It is hard to see because we don't recognize. I mean, people think it's semantics. It's not. Mm-mm. If you take away all calendars, if you take away all concepts of time, we're still here. Mm-hmm. We're still here in the present.
That's right.
There is, yeah. So you can take away all the paper, take away all the concepts of history and time, mm-hmm. and we're still here.
Yep.
Now.
Yep.
And so that tells you that history is not a requirement for the present. Mm-mm. It's not required. I think what they've done is they like to dredge up. They like to keep history in front of us, so to speak, so we keep blaming each other and hating each other. That's what history does.
Yeah.
If there's no evidence of slavery, if there's no evidence of misdeeds, And there's no evidence of us hating each other. Historically.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't hate each other.
Yeah. I mean, my experience of... actually, it's so interesting. I was thinking about this morning. Because my experience of every country that I was in, whether we could communicate on a verbal level in words easily or not, was people were just really wonderful, you know. We'd be riding a bicycle on the side of the road, and somebody'd stop and invite us to their house to spend the night, you know, some stranger. And it just isn't the only thing that gets in there is if somebody tells somebody to hate, you know, because of something in history.
So you obviously were in Europe or something. When was that?
I've been there several times, but the time I was speaking of was 87.
Oh, it was today.
Yes, it was today.
That was a trick question.
That was a good catch. See what the mind does so fast, though. I went back into a memory, and then I didn't stay with the truth of the matter, which is today.
You didn't stay in the present. So yeah, we look at these memories and don't realize that the moment of that experience was the present,
mm-hmm.
and we've never been anywhere but the present.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard for people to realize. They look at a picture of themselves from their 5th grade class photograph, and they go, "Oh, that was," and I'm thinking, no, it was not, because in that photograph I am.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, to conjugate the verb to be is I am. That's presence. The photograph was taken in that moment, which was the present.
Yes.
It is the present. So again, my presence began at fertilization and will end or terminate at my last breath. And when that presence terminates with my last breath, then my biology and my story will pass into the past. Yeah. But until I have passed, I am fully present. Mm-hmm. And that means that the bubble around my existence, if you think about my existence from fertilization to last breath, it's only one present moment.
Yeah.
And then what I don't know, what I don't feel, because it's been 62 plus years up to now, is that I don't feel the oneness of all those moments, because my perception is each moment is separate and linear, yeah, stacking on itself, when in fact it's all one life. It's all one biological existence. There is no separation.
Yep.
It's amazing how simple this is when you get here.
Yeah.
I obviously I have a plan for today's talk. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into it yet, but I always peruse the Facebook page to see what people are saying, or what videos they're presenting as these these incredible ideas. But one that stuck out today, real quick, I just want to go to one word, because it bothers me so much that people will believe and not look into what's being passed around, through mm-hmm. all the excitement. Let me get to this is the word is archon, ARCHON. Mm-hmm. Oh, the archons. You've heard people use that word, or you've seen it, and they always make it seem like it's something magical or mystical, or there's some beings out there that that are beyond us.
Yeah.
There isn't. I mean, I'm not saying there's not something beyond this realm, this three-dimensional realm that our biology exists in. I'm saying that when they say the word archon, they're mentally embellishing what it actually is defined as.
How do you spell it again?
They're thinking it's these. I'm sorry, what?
How do you spell it again? A-R-C-O-N?
A-R-C-H-O-N. Archon.
A-R-C.
So all you have to do is go to Webster's. I mean, if you're not intellectually lazy and you hear a word you're not familiar with, rather than passing it on to everybody else like there's these amazing beings out there beyond us. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it this way. Am I an amazing being beyond every monkey? Of course I am.
Yeah.
My intellect, my spirit, everything about me makes me more than a monkey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Biologically, I might be not much more than a monkey, but I am more than a monkey because of my mental capabilities.
Yes, absolutely.
The reason that's important is because in nature, by nature, I'm not much more than a monkey. But if you add the intellectual aspect, we'll call it heaven, consciousness, heaven. When you add consciousness, it makes me way more than the monkey.
Absolutely.
Beyond the ability of the monkey, light years beyond the monkey. What you find is that the monkeys are struggling. The monkeys, from the monkey's perspective, I would be an archon.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
From the monkey's perspective, I, with this consciousness, this level of being, would be an archon, which is exactly what we're talking about. My consciousness, we're going to call it Christian consciousness, Christ consciousness. My ability to look at the other monkeys and go, wow, we're not doing very well. That's the Christ consciousness that gives that evidences I'm above the other monkeys. There are a lot of us out there that have that capability, but not many are actually seeing the truth for what it is.
Yeah.
So we have the capacity for that kind of consciousness, but to be fully awake is to recognize or to be aware of the singular nature of presence. The singular nature.
Yeah, it is singular.
I mean, I've never been in yesterday, and I never will be in tomorrow, because all of this, my only existence is the present moment. Archon, according to Webster's, has only two definitions: a chief magistrate in ancient Athens, that'd be Greece, and two, a presiding officer. That's it. There's no flying saucer from the Pleiades that landed where archons came out and then presided over the monkeys. But that's what most people believe.
Yeah. Oh. So, do you know etymology, what it is? The word archon?
I can always count on you going straight to etymology. What is it?
Well, it's the past participle of A-R-K-H-E-I-N, to be first. Thence...
Well, what's the first in your existence?
The zygote.
The zygote. That's my wholeness.
Exactly. And it also means to begin. To begin from or with. To make preparation for. And then it also says rule, lead, govern.
Of course, it's the head.
Yeah.
The beginning is the head. So if you don't know your origin, if you're not of God, I call fertilization an act of God or creation itself, and then the product of that is the zygote. It's the first. And that's my biology. From that moment to last breath is one singular present moment. And I, from that moment, would be considered an archon.
Yep.
But you see what they do is the folks that don't want the population to learn about their origin or their direct connection to God.
Mm-hmm.
They use words like archon, and then they attach these weird, scary meanings to them.
Yep.
And because most of the population is too intellectually lazy to look up the word for themselves, be it Webster's or etymology online. Was there more to etymology?
No. Well, yeah, the only other thing it says is word of uncertain origin. And it says one of the 9 chief magistrates of ancient Athens. And then from the 1650s, then it was changed to ruler, commander, etc. But it was actually the present participle, not the past, the present participle of archine.
And tell me how it's spelled in etymology again.
Well, the actual the word that it's the present participle of is arkhein. A-R-K, as in Noah's Ark, or yep.
the Ark of the Covenant, which
Yep.
directly links you to your godly origin.
Yep.
The Ark.
Yep.
It's amazing to me, though, because people are condemning the archons as if they're something negative.
Well, so we can. Isn't that a clever way to condemn ourselves?
That's exactly what they have everybody doing.
Mm-hmm.
And all it does is prove that they're nothing but monkeys.
Yeah.
Everybody out there that believes all this shit, they even use the 100th monkey. I'm not even a monkey, so I don't fall within the 100th monkey no matter what. Because I'm not a monkey.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But they get people using these ideas or these phrases and then attribute those phrases or ideas to man. Well, the moment I accept the concept of the 100th monkey, being able to get to a typewriter and tap out Shakespeare,
Yeah.
it still pertains to a monkey, not man.
Yeah.
But they get people to lay claim to these ideas. And again, even talking negatively about the archon is actually talking negatively about your godly origin.
Yep.
And the ark, the very thing, the extra-embryonic material, the boat, the capsule, the very thing you were inside of in the womb that got you from nowhere to somewhere. From nowhere to now here.
That's right.
So that's, I mean, that was, look at how simple that was.
Just pay attention.
Maybe people that hear this call will go, oh, I get it now. We need to intellectually start asking the right questions. What are the archons? Rather than pass along misinformation or negative information or fear-based ideas, we need to look into them to see if maybe they're not what we think they are.
Yep.
And the archons, as far as I'm concerned, I am one.
Yeah.
I am an archon because I originated at the zygotic level, which is the origin. It's both the creative act, God, and the product of that creative act, the zygote. The zygote is my biological origin. As one cell, it's also the Ark of the Covenant. It is the Ark. It is the archon.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to go really crazy on you.
Okay.
For a second. So they take this material, I'm going to call it the afterbirth, the extra-embryonic material, the shell that was surrounding me, protecting me in the womb, all of that material, the amnion, all of that material, the chorion, all of my biology that used to surround me and protect me in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
When they clamp and cut the cord and it dies and they bury it, let's say 6 feet under. Mm-hmm. When they speak of the archons as this nefarious organization, they always talk about the archons' underground bases.
Huh.
Well,
Wow.
where is your material buried?
6 feet under. Mm-hmm.
6 feet under.
Mm-hmm.
So is the archon, is your biology, the archon of you, buried in an underground base somewhere?
Huh.
They might even call it a sepulcher or a vault, like a bank vault,
Yeah. Wow.
a deposit
Wow.
that they call upon whenever they need it. They call it a Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
The Federal Reserve is the reservation for this material. All of these ideas. All you have to do is go back to your origin and everything makes sense.
Yep. So if you
And the people that actually know this information, they're using it against the monkeys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Against the monkeys. And the monkeys are agreeing to it.
Yep. Jumping on it.
They're jumping all over it. They're all I can picture is 2001: A Space Odyssey, and all those monkeys dancing around and being all angered about that monolith. That's what I picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what we've become.
Mm-hmm.
We have diminished our intellectual capacity to the point where we respond like monkeys to the stimuli, the stimulus
Yep.
that they put out there across the airwaves.
Yep. So it's interesting when you look up, it's ARK.
Did you like my monkey?
Yes.
Did you like my monkey?
I do. Well,
My interpretation of a monkey. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
so you look up Hein, H-E-I-N, so we have ARC, which we've established. Hein is an abbreviation for, this is just right off of, I guess it's a Yahoo thing that I've got here, but yeah. I just put into my search engine Hein, H-E-I-N, D-E-F. And the first thing that comes up is an abbreviation of the word heinous, meaning a person or wrongful act, especially a crime. So aren't they just telling you an archon that's what they did? They cut your arc off.
They cut you off from your direct link to God.
Yeah, right there. They're saying
That's
it in
what they
that
did.
word, archon, and then they're switching and baiting and making the word this, ooh, ruler, because how are they ruling? Through your ignorance of one's ignorance of the truth of the matter, that you're whole.
Right, but there's something even simpler than that. When you said ruler or rule,
Mm-hmm. Oh, major.
the measure that is cut off of you,
Mm-hmm.
the umbilical cord and that extra embryonic material that's still attached to mother, that measure, that cut material is the measure or the rule ultimately identifying the sovereign, the ruler.
Yes.
You cannot have a sovereign capacity if you're not W-H-O-L-E.
And the first definition in etymology for archine is ruler.
Ruler.
And I slid right back by that one.
So the rule, who makes the rules?
Mm-hmm.
The ruler. I am the very measure. They cut the measure, the biological measure off of me
Mm-hmm.
that identifies my godly link, my link to God.
Yep.
Direct link. There is no middleman between me and God or me and the moment of creation.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here and then I was.
Yep.
So tell me where the middleman fits in.
He made his way in by the cut.
So fertilization, the 9 months in the womb, I come out of the womb, I'm still one biology, but then they cut the cord. Mm-hmm. When they cut the cord, they disconnect me from all that time in the womb that actually is the Archon. Mm-hmm. It is me. It's my origin. It's my link, direct link to God. And what do? They give that material a name. They give that material a name. What is the name they give to that cut material?
Placenta?
Jesus!
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus, of course.
So Jesus becomes the middleman, but Jesus is in fact our biology.
Yeah.
It's the amnion.
Yeah.
It's the Lamb of God. The Lamb. Amnion. So that's how they create a middleman, by us not remembering, by us abandoning our godly origin. They created a middleman that they control by name, Jesus.
Yeah.
And Jesus is he's a dead man, isn't he? He's a sacrifice.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the law of dead bodies.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the material. Jesus is the middleman that they created, but they created Jesus with our own biology.
Yep. And they say it right there in the actual word that they committed a heinous crime, a wrongful act.
Or we did by admitting to a birthday, or by admitting to salvation or a savior.
Right.
We did.
Yeah, we absolutely perpetuate it that way. But we abandon God when we claim a birthday. We abandon God when we require a middleman between us and our Creator. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's an affront.
Yeah.
That's definitely an affront.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Should we get onto this document? But I mean, all of it always goes back to the same thing.
Yep. Always.
That's always going to be my point. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I turn, it always goes back. Everything is founded upon historically his story, not mine. Some third person, third party. That's not me in the present.
Yep.
His story is not my story.
Yeah.
So if I defer, if I hand off my present moments, if I sacrifice this presence, then I need an administrator. I need somebody to help me, reconnect with my estate, reconnect with my my origin, reconnect with my father's name, reconnect with my inheritance, reconnect with the Holy Grail, which is that biology they cut off.
Yep. It's endless what can be required once you agree to that birthday.
Oh, they can make anything up they want. That fictional realm at this point can be anything they want it to be, because it doesn't have to. Once it goes fiction, once you accept the fiction, anything goes.
Yep, that's right.
I mean, fuck. I mean, they actually say that, biological beings can come back to life after they're dead. Well, no, they can't.
Yeah.
Once a biology dies, by definition, death is a terminal point. There is no coming back from death. So if somebody does come back from the dead, they were never dead to begin with.
Right. Yep.
Law of Dead Bodies, 1928. This is a Notre Dame Law Review document, Volume 3, Issue 3, from January 1st, 1928. The document is called Law and Dead Bodies by Thomas V. Happer and Joseph P. McNamara.
Wow.
This is amazing to me. I mean, this is one of the first documents I ever read where the light bulb came on about this afterbirth decedent estate that they created from my biology.
Yeah, I remember past conversations
about this document.
Yeah, that was today when we discussed this before.
right, I'm good. My computer's working, which is good. I'm going to get out of Archon. By the way, again, Archon has only two definitions: the chief magistrate in ancient Athens, and two, a presiding officer. A presiding officer. Before I get to the document, I'm gonna go to presiding. Presiding. Let's see what Webster says about presiding. To exercise guidance, direction, or control. To preside. Is that my mind right now? Mm-hmm. Am I self-governing if I'm presiding?
Yes.
Of course I am. So self-government is presiding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able, if I'm self-directed, if I'm self-determined, if I am self-governing, I am presiding over this biology.
Yep.
Number 2 says to occupy the place of authority, act as president, chairman, or moderator. B says to occupy a position similar to that of a president or chairman. And 3 says to occupy a position of featured instrumental performer. That sounds like an actor to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's to preside, and let's see what officer says. Well, let's just put office. Hell, I don't even need to go to officer. An office. Right?
Yep, I'm there.
Again, I'm still at Webster's, but it says a special duty, charge, or position conferred by an exercise of governmental authority. Well, that's my own brain. That's my own head. That's my own mind.
Mm-hmm.
For a public purpose, a position of authority to exercise a public function and to receive whatever emoluments may belong to it. So they're saying that this is a public situation. Well, I don't know. I don't think my mind is public. No. I might be in the public occasionally, controlling myself in the public.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
not always, but most of the time I'm controlling myself in the public. But that's me controlling myself. 1B says a position of responsibility or some degree of executive authority. Executive authority. 2 says a prescribed form or service of worship, specifically capitalized divine office. In other words, if my biology, if I am breathing, I am inspired, which is spiritual.
Yes.
So my living body, my living, breathing body is what? It's directed by my own heaven, by my own consciousness.
Absolutely.
Divine office. Let's just see what that link takes us to. The office for the canonical hours of prayer that priests and religious say daily. Canonical hours of prayer. Again, I don't need any fictitious ideas to be sitting here talking to you on the phone.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I am inspired. I have the breath of God in me, which means I have God in me. I do not require anybody's ideas as to what life is all about because I'm self-evident at this point.
Yes.
And of course, if inspiration and breath and God are all one thing, I require God even to be living.
Mm-hmm.
3, a religious or social ceremonial observance, a rite, R-I-T-E. When I hear the word rite, R-I-T-E, of passage, the rite of passage, what do you think of when I say the rite of passage? What came to mind right there? I saw the light bulb come on in your head.
And passing through the vagina from the water.
Absolutely, from the unborn to the born is a rite of passage. And there's a term that you use all the time. You use it all the time. One of your favorite movies, what is it?
The Phantom Toll Booth.
The Phantom Toll Booth. They put a toll booth right at the vagina.
Yes, they did.
And so when you come out of the vagina, they call it customs. And what do? They cut off a piece of you, which they're considering an excise tax.
Mm-hmm.
To excise, to cut.
Yep.
It's an excise tax. So they cut a piece of you off, and they place that tax on deposit as a pledge.
Yes.
It's an excise tax. It's the phantom toll booth. So you come out of the womb, you were innocent in the womb, you were whole in the womb, You were complete. You were the only authority. You were the sovereign in the womb. And then you come out, and what do? They clamp and cut off your very connection to God. And then you're supposed to, through this phantom limb and this piece of paper, this birth certificated phantom limb character, you're supposed to go find yourself.
Meanwhile, keep paying. Keep paying the toll. Keep paying the toll.
Meanwhile, until you do, you got to keep paying the toll.
Yep. One of the...
And the toll is the Bar Association that works in that space as who? As Sharon.
Yep.
Sharon is what? He's the
medium.
The medium, but I mean, where does Sharon work? He works in the space between the world of the living and the dead.
Yep. That's right.
He's the ferryman, and he requires silver.
Yes.
So in order for you to reconnect with your godly origin, you have to go through the Bar Association, who's acting as the ferryman, the one who helps you cross over and reconnect to your godly origin. That's the toll.
Yeah. And it's all a friggin' story.
So again, the rite of passage, you have to pay one way or another. You can either pay by learning this so you can matriculate and graduate and receive your diplomacy and become the diplomat that no longer has to pay that fee, PHI, or FEE if you want to see it that way.
Yeah.
Even the United States recognizes, they know this, and that's why 22 USC 288B is in play, where it says when an owner arrives in connection with his baggage and effects, there is no IRS and there is no duty to perform. What does that mean? It means that even though they physically cut this off of you, that's a fact. That's a matter of fact.
Yes.
They did cut and remove this material from you, but as long as you do not forget it, even though it's physically separated from you, if you know this material all the way back to fertilization, which makes you WHOLE, then you don't require a physician to put you, Humpty, back together with your cut material, Dumpty.
Nope.
You are in fact whole, and when you're whole, you need not a physician. Luke 5:31, King James Version.
That's right.
So when you're whole, you're sovereign, and when you're sovereign, you have what? Foreign sovereign immunity. You are immune from all of the fictitious events or creations of man. You are no longer subject to man. 1 Corinthians says a spiritual man is to be judged by no man. So when you actually know the truth of the matter all the way back to fertilization, even though they physically cut it off of you, you're not subject to that toll.
That's right.
Okay. I'm moving the podium away from me. I really, it's funny, once I get going on this soapbox, it's hard to stop. So
I know.
Stop me.
Well, okay, I just had to look up matriculate in etymology. So the first part, matri, takes you to mother, matrix. And so I had to look up the last part, culate, and it takes you to curate. And it's spiritual guide, but it actually comes from the Latin word curatus, one responsible for the care, and then of souls, and it's the past participle of to take care of. So, what my brain did with that is that you come out from the mother when you come through the vagina. And through knowledge, you learn to become responsible. I'm responsible for myself. I've come out of the mother. I've matriculated out of the mother to self-responsibility.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the best way to think of this, is that mother was feeding you, mother was giving you oxygen, mother was keeping you alive in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come out of the womb, you're still connected to mother through the fetal aspect of the placenta.
Mm-hmm.
When they cut that, that is evidence of being cut off from the mother. The problem is when they cut the umbilical cord, they leave a piece of you attached to the mother. Mm-hmm. And that piece of you attached to the mother is the fetal part of the placenta. The placenta is a fetal-maternal organ. Mm-hmm. It is, in fact, a tertium quid, combined with two elements, baby's biology and mom's biology. But so now they have on the record, evidence of you still being linked to mother.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that birth certificate is evidence of that link. So every time you reclaim the birthday, every time you even speak of Jesus, you speak of Jesus and Mary. Jesus is the fetal, Mary is the maternal. Mm-hmm. The birthday evidences only the cut and the product of the cut, which is what? Which is the placenta. Mm-hmm. Again, the placenta means cake. So the placenta is the original birthday cake, which is why they have us making our pilgrimage back to the birthday every 365 days. We make a religious pilgrimage back to the relic, R-E-L-I-C, the relic known as placenta or birthday cake. Mm-hmm. So we celebrate the birthday cake, we celebrate the reconnection to mother, and for the next 365 days, we remain the infant.
Yeah.
And so infants require what? Infants require,
care.
Say it?
Care for someone has to care for them.
An infant requires care, guidance. Mm-hmm. It requires what? It requires some other authority to mm-hmm. watch over that infancy. Yeah. Again, as long as we keep making that pilgrimage back to that infancy through the birthday, we are not responsible for our life. That's why all of these estates are under a guardianship or placed in the In God We Trust to be administrated over by some other organization or other people. That's why we don't have the ability to speak for ourselves, because we keep going back to infancy.
Yep.
The decedent estate, the infant decedent estate. And what's really sad is most people's motive, they just want something. Mm-hmm. They want something. Kurt, I'm really afraid of losing everything. Well, you don't have anything now because it's all in trust. Mm-hmm. And they can take it from you anytime they want because they're the guardians.
Yep. Every person, I have a friend right now who, because of hers is one of those lives that it just, anyway, she's got, in her finances are in a trust through the courts. And the trustee is not trustworthy, frankly, spending the money on herself rather than administering it, which is, it just is, that whole thing of trust, giving my life over for someone else, to trust them that that they can even possibly know how to take care of it better than I do. As I really understand what all of that means, on so many levels, it's such a level of insanity to believe that.
Living beings, and this is going to sound horrible for most people, but living beings have been taught that trust is okay. It is. But reality is there is nobody that cares about your life more than you.
No.
And you should not entrust your life as a grown being to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not somebody else's business. It's not somebody else's business to take care of you.
No.
And so once we realize that, then we don't have anything to do with trusts. Yeah. Anybody that's operating through a trust is negligent or irresponsible.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's the only two positions. If I want to have a trust account, if I want to believe that it's okay to put my property and my life in the hands of a trust, that's irresponsible right off the bat. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want the liability of my own existence.
Yep.
I don't want to get in trouble. Well, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Your business is none of my business. I don't want anything to do with your business.
Exactly.
And you don't have anything to do with my business, so stay out of my business and don't ever bring me in. I'm not a participant in your insanity.
Exactly.
That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
This is true insanity, where people have been led to believe or misled to believe it's okay that we're all in this together, when in fact we are not.
We can't be.
We can't be. By the way, one last thing before I finally get into this document is the concept of position, our position, my position. Right now I'm walking across my living room floor. And I'm going to say that the center of my spirit, the center of my soul, the center of my existence, there's a point in my heart. And that point in my heart is called the SA node, or sinoatrial node. That sinoatrial node transmits a signal that contracts my heart and moves the spirit, the spirit meaning the blood that's carrying the inspiration, the oxygen, the breath. It's carrying that spirit through my biology and it's giving it life.
Yes.
The signal is it comes from an unknown source. I'm going to say that my signal in my SA node is coming from somewhere out there. It's somewhere out there. It's not here. It's not emanating here. It's emanating from out there somewhere. Now, could it emanate through the Schumann resonance of the Earth, Mother Earth? Yes. I don't have any way to know where this transmission being received by my SA node of the heart, I don't know where it's coming from. And nobody else does either.
Right.
I mean, unless somebody can prove to me that they do know, they don't know. And I require proof.
Yep.
Not faith, not belief, proof. And since I don't have any of that, and nobody I know has any of that, and nobody anywhere has ever proven that they do know, I'm going to say I don't know. So my SA node is receiving a signal that's allowing this heart to move the spirit through my biology, giving me life. There it is right there, life and God right there.
Yep. That's right.
Now, here's my point in all this, is that I am about 5'10", 5'11". I am getting shorter over the years, but my heart right now, in fact, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to go get a tape, a measuring tape.
A ruler?
A ruler, but not really, because I am the ruler.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just kind of give you an estimate of where this SA node is above the Earth. Okay, I'm going to say it's probably right about there. So it is about 52 inches above the Earth. My SA node, the satellite, the heart that's receiving the signal, is about 52 inches above the Earth. That's extraterrestrial.
Yes.
So the location of my centeredness is 52 inches above the Earth, which makes my existence extraterrestrial, above the Earth.
Above the Earth. Yep.
So as I walk and move around inside my house, I am like a satellite above the Earth.
Yes, you are.
Even if I lay down, the SA node is still roughly, 4 to 8 inches above the Earth. It never actually is inside or on the Earth. It's always separated. My centeredness, the SA node, that's that many inches above the Earth, never, ever meets your centeredness.
No.
Everything I am is out there beyond my centeredness. everything I am is in here. So my sphere of existence or evolution from fertilization to this moment has a center. And all of my experience and all of these the presumed time is moving out away from that center.
Yes.
But my center and your center never meet.
No.
We can never, ever occupy the same space.
No.
We are never in the same place or moment in time as each other.
No.
The only place we meet is through consciousness. It's through consciousness.
Yep.
That's the only place you and I can actually meet. Because physically we can't. My SA node and your SA node can never touch.
Nope.
So the only place you and I ever get together or meet, I call it is in heaven, in consciousness.
Yes. And even
do dead bodies have that ability?
No, not at all.
Okay, you were going to say something.
Well, even in that consciousness, I bring my I-ness to that space that we're sharing of, and you bring yours. So even in consciousness, there's still two.
Two positions.
Yeah.
Right, because your SA node, the transmission, the point of transmission or receipt of transmission, they're in different places. Even if you were sitting across the table from me, or even if we were hugging right now, we could still only consciously meet.
Yes. But it is a meeting. I mean, I guess that's the point I'm making. Is it still a meeting? It's not one. We're meeting in consciousness.
Well, right, but there can be. I mean, you've heard of collective consciousness, and that's where the masses are collectively believing or thinking about something. It might be considered universal or the universality of something, but the reality is people that are not thinking for themselves or that are acting collectively have lost the ability to self-govern.
Absolutely.
So if you still say our government and you're referring to a piece of paper created in 1789, you have collectivized your sovereignty or your existence. Yes. You are no longer self-governing.
That's correct.
You're being governed through a proxy who really doesn't have your best interest at heart.
Right.
I mean, look at the incomes, look at the lifestyles these people are living, and they have exempted themselves from the monkey.
Yep. The
life of the monkey.
I haven't ever met a proxy that has your best interest at heart.
No, they're stealing everything through the "In God We Trust" for themselves.
Yep.
They are laughing at the monkeys because the monkeys don't get it yet. Okay.
All right.
How much time have I wasted? Okay.
Well, we did almost an hour.
Yeah. Don't answer that. All right, so I'm going to go. This document is only 6 pages long. 5 pages, and I'm going to just get into the heavy stuff. I will read the whole thing, but there's only there's some heavy stuff in here. Okay, so it says the law and dead bodies, curiosities of the law. Anomalous as it may seem at first blush, there are few issues in the field of jurisprudence as live as that concerning dead bodies. Wow, that's pretty funny that they use the word as live as that concerning dead bodies. Look at that. So it says there are few issues in the field of jurisprudence as live as that concerning dead bodies.
Wow.
By the way, this is verbatim. I'm reading it. So these are attorneys having fun with the concept of dead bodies. Whether or not a property right may inhere in a corpse, and if so, whether it constitutes real or personal property, has been mooted question. the courts have almost uniformly held, that's the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, the courts have almost uniformly held that there are no property rights in the strict sense or in the ordinary use of the term in the dead body of a human being. Look what they did there. The courts have almost uniformly held that there are no property rights in the strict sense, comma, or in the ordinary use of the term. So again, you have uniform and ordinary.
Yeah.
They're two completely different positions.
Yeah.
But they put those, they bound those together in the idea of the dead body.
Yeah.
Goes on to say, however, the courts have always recognized a quasi-property right in the corpse, which gives some appointed person the right to inter the remains. So some appointed person, an appointment, the right to inter the remains. Let's just go to inter real quick at Webster's. I-N-T-E-R. So there's a person that has been appointed over this dead body. Over my dead body, Linda.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, Kurt.
Mm-hmm.
Over Kurt's dead body. Look what it says here. Gives some appointed person the right to inter the remains. Now remember, when they cut the umbilical cord, you get taken home with mom and dad as baby, you have human remains. The fetal biology that was cut off of you is human remains.
Yes.
It remains there while you go home with mom and dad.
Yes. And someone...
Your biology, your fetal biology becomes human remains.
Yes. And some appointed person has the right to inter that remains.
So inter, the verb says to deposit a dead body in the earth or in a tomb.
Are you there?
Sorry. Yeah. I went to the word, okay, so you go to a bank and that big steel thing, that big steel door that has all these incredible valuables inside, what is that big steel thing called?
A vault.
A vault at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go to, I'm at inter, it says to deposit a dead body in the earth or a tomb.
Mm-hmm. I'm
going to go to vault.
Okay.
Because it's a deposit. It's a principal, Principal, P-A-L.
Mm-hmm.
It's a principal deposit in a bank vault.
Yes.
So I'm going to go to the word vault at Webster's. It says an arched structure, structure of masonry, usually forming a ceiling or roof, that's a vault, something such as the sky resembling a vault, an arched or dome-shaped anatomical structure. By the way, if you're thinking of your cranium or your skull, that's a vault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It could be a vault.
Yeah.
If you're holding all your valuables through your memory, that's a vault.
Yes.
If you can remember. So if I remember my origin, my godly origin's fertilization, where is my property?
With your remembrance.
It's in the vault of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
2, a space covered by an arched structure. There's my brain. Mm-hmm. There's my memory. There's my mind. Look at this. Especially an underground passage or room. That's 2. It says a space covered by an arched structure, especially an underground passage or room.
Mm-hmm.
An underground storage compartment. a room or compartment for the safekeeping of valuables. Look at number 3A. A burial chamber is a vault.
Mm-hmm.
Vault, verb, it says to form or cover with or as if with a vault. An arch. ARCH. That's the front end of archon.
Yeah, that's where I went.
So again, my origin, my godly origin, my authority is evidenced by the material in my mind, in the vault.
Yes.
If I let that material stay at the hospital and become a deposit in the In God We Trust vault of the United States, that collective trust, now all of a sudden my biology becomes subject to that trust, doesn't it?
Yep.
I'm going to go back to the document. Some appointed person the right to inter the remains. So they're allowing me to make a choice what to do with the cut material.
Yep.
If I choose to place it in the In God We Trust, with the help of the medical society, then my archon, my authority goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remain a child forever,
yes.
subject to guardianship.
Yep.
As a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
Next page. This interest is circumscribed with exactness. The cutting of the umbilical cord is exact. Not only that, when they cut that umbilical cord, it is a cross cut.
Yes, absolutely.
A cross cut. CROSS cut. It would also be considered a C-section.
Yes.
And they mark the C-section, Caesar's section. It's not just cutting open and allowing the baby to come out a different way. A C-section is a cross cut.
Yes.
And they mark where the cut occurred with a memorial, and that memorial is a birth certificate.
Yeah.
It's marked by a cross. In fact, you sign next to the cross every time you see an X on a line or on a document. See here, sign next to this cross. Sign next to this sacrificial marker.
Yep. I think it's...
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting that they say this interest. They could say this is subscribed with exactness, but they put the word interest in there.
Because when they take your biology and place it into the public pool, the public trust, you now have a share in the public. You have an interest in that public trust. And what is the word interest? If you know what it means, you have an interest in the public trust, which means you have...
a percentage.
Equity, yes. Equity.
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving you equity. They're giving you equity in the public, but it also places your biology in the public.
Yes, then the public has an equity in you too, an interest in you.
It has a third-party interest in your biology, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so much worse. It can't get any worse than your biology being in the public or being of the public, because with that biology in the public pool, in the public trust, you have no right of privacy.
That's right.
This is where nobody gets this. If you're of the public, you have no right to privacy.
That's right.
All of these drones flying over, all of these doors being kicked in by the police, the policy enforcers, that's because they're not dealing with private people anymore. They're dealing with public persons.
That's right.
That don't have a right to privacy.
Mm-hmm. And there's an infinite number of possibilities of who might have interest in that public. It's
infinite because it's everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a legitimate claim to what you have because the public, the community known as the public, the community, commune is communism.
Mm-hmm.
Democracy is communism.
Mm-hmm.
If all the property is placed in communal trust, it's communism.
Yep.
To continue, the right is only that a burial of that. The right is only that of burial and cannot be deviated from to the extent of disposing of the body in any purpose other than that of interment, whether for pecuniary gain or not. So they're saying that that material that was cut off of you, it has to be interred. It has to be deposited somewhere. Well, here's my question, Linda. If I am still using that very same biology, I'm talking DNA now,
Mm-hmm.
was there anything left behind?
No.
No. Have I abandoned it?
No.
Have I abandoned any of my biology or DNA?
No.
If it has not been abandoned intentionally, I'm still using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means I did not abandon it. If I'm still using it, can any of it, my private biology, be taken and placed in the public trust?
No.
I have not abandoned it, have I?
Mm-mm.
No. So it cannot be placed in the public trust. That means any document that is representative of a public biology, a public trust document, it doesn't actually apply to me, does it?
No.
This is all about the piece that was cut off of me that is being allowed to establish a decedent estate.
Mm-hmm.
There is no decedent estate if I'm still using the biology this moment, 62 plus years later.
Yeah, you can't be alive.
How can I be dead and living?
You took it out of my mouth.
Yeah, I know. That's why these calls. Ready? Next paragraph. This is amazing. By the way, I and my Father are one. Let me do one thing first. I'm going to go back to, it says, the interest is circumscribed with exactness. The right is only that of burial and cannot be deviated. But the sentence just prior to that says,
The appointed person, is that where you're at?
the appointed person. I'm going to go to Isaiah 9:6, King James Version. Isaiah 9:6, King James. It says, For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Now, if my origin is the zygote, and it's a direct product of fertilization, an act of God, there's no middleman there.
Mm-hmm.
That means that I and the Father, the zygote, the offspring of the zygote, that singular cell, that single 46 chromosome cell that is a product of an act of God,
Mm-hmm.
that zygote, upon evolutionary process over the next 9 months, has that material and a stem known as an umbilical cord, and at the end of that stem is the fruit or the product of that or the offspring of that seed known as zygote, which is the embryo, fetus, and then baby. So the baby's connected by a stem or the umbilical back to the original seed known as the zygote. That's all one thing, isn't it?
Yes.
So I and the father of that offspring, the zygote itself, because remember, my dad Richard, known as from the family Kallenbach, my dad only offered 23 chromosomes, right?
Yes.
So my earthly dad offered 23 chromosomes, but the zygote, the product of an act of God, The zygote's 46 chromosomes.
Yes.
And I'm actually the offspring of that 46 chromosomes, am I not?
Yes.
So the father of the offspring of that is the zygote. The zygote is the father of the embryo, the father of the fetus, and the father of the baby.
Yes.
My dad is not the father of me. He is my dad.
Yes.
Okay. So Isaiah 9:6 is basically saying this child is born, but it's also the everlasting Father. And now I'm going to go to one more biblical quote, which is I and my Father are one, and that is John 10:30, and that's all it says. I and my Father are one. In other words, I, as the offspring of the zygote, the Father, are one. The reason that's important is because when I speak of the Father, I am speaking of the zygote or the extra embryonic material that was violently cut and removed from my presence.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Father.
Yes.
So the next paragraph, when you know that the zygotic material is your own biology, this will all make sense. Ready?
Yes.
It's next paragraph. This was not always the case. By the way, the word case. The case is the surrounding material in the womb.
Yep.
When they speak of the case, they're talking about the extra embryonic material that surrounded and protected you in the womb. That's the case.
It's your ark. Mm-hmm.
It's your ark.
Mm-hmm.
It's your ark.
Archon.
It says, this was not always the case. In ancient Egypt, a son could borrow money by hypothecating his father's body. If I am the son, the offspring, the baby, and I can borrow money against the zygote, if I place the biology known as the extraembryonic afterbirth, the fetal afterbirth, if I allow that to be deposited into a vault,
Wow.
am I not hypothecating the biological zygote?
Yep.
And they give it a title, or they give it a certificated title, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, and that acts as a what? It acts as the creditor to that hypothecated biology.
Yep.
I'm actually doing what? I'm drawing against the zygotic father.
Yes. Wow.
I place my own biology on deposit.
Wow.
It becomes the creditor, and me out here drawing against it becomes the debtor.
Better.
Yet it's one and the same biology.
Mm-hmm.
They got me playing both roles. Creditor, which is my extra embryonic deposit, and debtor, the one drawing against that principle.
Wow.
And yet it's just me.
Yeah.
So again, when I become WHOLE, whole, then I don't need a middleman to work as what?
The connector.
What are they doing? The exchange. The exchange to work in the exchange zone.
Yep.
What do they call it when you change monies in different countries or in different lands?
You go to an exchange.
You go to an exchange,
Mm-hmm.
but what is it called? Conversion.
Conversion. Mm-hmm.
They're converting the deposit, the biological deposit. They're converting God. They're converting God, and whatever that means. I guess it could mean gold. It could mean anything. But they're converting my deposit into whatever they need it to be out here in this world, of this world. So my inheritance, my father's name, everything about my existence is being held on deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go out as the prodigal son with an advance against my lifetime earnings. My own lifetime earnings. But I'm being treated as a debtor.
Yep.
And then only at my death, only upon my actual biological last breath death, is there a forensic accounting where all of the positives and all of the negatives are brought together to see what happens at the end. When I'm dead, they will do a forensic accounting on that. What I'm getting at is I'm both the creditor and the debtor.
Yeah, I get it.
That's all I'm saying here. And they're also saying that in ancient Egypt, a son could, in fact, hypothecate his father's body. Am I not hypothecating my father, the zygote's body, by allowing it to go into a depository, to be drawn against in the present? Yep. So they're taking and creating a past, P-A-S-T, they're creating his story. They're putting a piece of me in history. And then I, out in the present, have to draw against that deposit.
Yep.
It's still just my biology.
Yep. Sorry, I'm getting it. I really am. I'm just taking it in. That's all.
It's almost impossible for most people to see. My original biology, the father, the zygote, is now placed on deposit as a pledge.
Yep, I get it.
And then but it's attached to my father's name, so my father's name and my zygotic deposit, the principal, becomes a founding father. Mm-hmm. So when they have you saying the founding fathers, and you believe you're talking about Washington and all them guys, no, you're talking about your foundation, your own founding father, which is the zygote.
Yep.
It is on deposit, and that's why they can haul your ass in, your biological body, in as a surety against all of those future withdrawals. Remember, the present is the future to the past.
Yes.
So where we are right now is the future to that deposit.
Yes. It's pretty brilliant to take that ancient concept and it's just appalling.
But you have to know what's being hypothecated. So let's go to hypothecation real quick. So what's being hypothecated is your own biology.
Yeah.
But by cutting it off and freezing it as an asset in the past, they're able to actually separate that past from this present.
Yeah.
And so this present, because it's the future to that past, they can control it.
I know.
But what if it's all one?
Then they can't.
Then they can't.
That's why.
By knowing the truth, by knowing the truth of the matter, they can't hypothecate your own biology.
Yeah. Yeah, it just is so, it seems so like, oh yeah, but it's not. It's like, oh fucking yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. Oh, fuck. There it is. So I'm going to go to hypothecate. Now, to hypothecate says to pledge as security without delivery of title or possession. Am I still in possession of this biology?
Yes.
Right, my spirit, I'm still breathing, so I am present in this biology. Mm-hmm. I occupy this biology.
Yes.
But they're saying to pledge as security. So my zygote, the extra embryonic material that was violently cut and taken from me and placed on deposit as a hypothecation, they're taking that presumed abandonment as a donation or as a pledge. Mm-hmm. And now my biology in this present moment can be hauled into any third-party equity claim.
Yep.
The public.
Yep.
And I am now serving a servitude to that public. I become a public servant. Mm-hmm. And I get a public office. It's Isaiah 9:6. They're giving me a vested interest in the public. That vestment is the outer shell or the covering, what once covered me in the womb. That's the vestment. It's the clothing I wore in the womb.
Yeah.
It's my godly garment.
Yes.
It's the Ark of the Covenant.
It's your retinue. It's your.
It's all of my existence, and they have it on deposit.
Mm-hmm. Your baggage and effect. I mean, they've got
it's
it.
It's the baggage and effects, assuming I have abandoned it.
Yeah.
He goes on to say, perhaps it is just as well that this interesting convention, that is no longer conventional, has passed into oblivion with the people who were most acquainted with it. So in other words, if you're still using that system, you will find yourself in oblivion.
Wow.
Because that's where it is past. If it's not present, if you are not present and you have no access to the present, it's oblivion. I'm going to go to Oblivion real quick, because one of my favorite movies is called Oblivion. Oblivion, the fact or condition of not remembering, a state marked by lack of awareness or consciousness, the condition or state of being forgotten or unknown. Is not the first 9 months in the womb oblivion?
Yes.
For most people.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to say for almost everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Because by forgetting those 9 months in the womb, allowing that material to become a pledge in that democracy, that global public, you, by yourself, you have passed into oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, not remembering, a state marked by lack of awareness or consciousness. You are oblivious to reality. And your biology has become the surety for all of the international banks to use.
Yep.
It says this because the Egyptian methods for embalming have been kept in the knowledge of no one with the exception of the Sphinx, whose stone lips never moved. These guys that wrote this in 1928 are laughing because 5 years later, or around 5 years later, the birth certificates came out.
Mm-hmm.
And the birth certificates evidence this pledge.
That's right.
It is evidence of this pledge, and by us willfully accepting the birth date, the birth certificated character, we are allowing our biology to be hypothecated and become surety, the blood sacrifice for a global banking system.
Yep.
Okay, to continue. When a debtor, now listen to this because we've all heard this. When a debtor said, well, you'll collect that over my dead body in the Middle Ages, it could be taken quite literally. Well, guess what? That cut material that has been forgotten by all of us, or I should say almost all of us, that forgotten material becomes what? The hypothecated father's biology, and it
is the dead body.
It becomes a dead body and a decedent estate.
Mm-hmm.
And that decedent estate has what you see as the birth certificated name. That's the title to the decedent estate. It is your dead body.
Yep.
And it says, in the Middle Ages, could be taken quite literally. What's really interesting is that in most cases, almost in all cases, they created a middle age. The middle initial, the middle name.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Middle Age.
Yeah. And
the middle age would be the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
Between alpha and omega, between the front end and back end, between fertilization and last breath, is the meantime, the Middle Ages.
Yep. Wow.
And look what it says here. Well, you can collect over my dead body. In the Middle Ages, it could be taken quite literally. So they're taking the biology, creating a meantime, a middle age.
Quite literally.
literally on paper.
Yep.
They're creating a middle age, a meantime, MEANTIME, a meantime. In the meantime, between Alpha and Omega, between creation and death, they're gonna control this, and they actually do it. And they do it through the taking. It says taken. It could be taken quite literally. And they do. They take it biologically, which gives rise to a piece of paper, a birth certificated character, which is literal.
Yes.
So they create a literary character about the biology that was taken, and they create a middle age, a meantime, that they control.
Yeah, wow.
They don't control the front end, fertilization, and they don't control your death, but they control everything in the middle.
Wow.
You know what's really funny is MALCUM DEF. Have you ever heard of the show Malcolm in the Middle?
Yeah. Oh my God, yes.
I'm going to go to Malcolm. Definition, and I'm just going to go to the first one. I'm at dictionary.com, and it says Malcolm. Now, Malcolm in the Middle, right, was a TV show?
Yeah.
MALCOLM, Malcolm. MALCOLM, Malcolm. Malcolm in the Middle. Right?
Yeah.
I just talked about the meantime or the middle time, the middle age. Malcolm, a male given name from the Gaelic word meaning disciple of Saint Columba, COLUMBA, Columba. I'm going to go to Columba definition or wiki. COLUMBA wiki. Malcolm in the Middle. Saint Columba. Okay? Columba. First of all, let's just do what you do best. Let's go to etymology.
Okay.
Go to etymology online and type in Columba. COLUMBA.
Guess what comes up?
What?
Malcolm.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I did you type in Columba?
Yeah.
At etymology online?
Yeah.
Well, mine came up COLUM columbarium.
Yeah, that's the second thing that comes up, but the first thing.
Okay, read me the definition of columbarium.
Columbarium is the subterranean sepulchre in ancient Roman places with niches for urns holding remains. The neuter of Latin columbarius, dovecote, the funeral place, so called from resemblance literally pertaining to doves. From columba, dove, pigeon, word of uncertain origin.
Okay, look at all the stuff that's in just this definition. A subterranean sepulcher in ancient Roman places with niches for urns holding remains. A sepulcher is a burial ground.
Yes.
Ancient Rome, places for niches. A niche, an impression in a wall.
Yep.
What do they call... I mean, when your zygote implants into the wall of the uterus, is it making an impression on the matrix, the wall of the uterus?
Yes.
If I were to take my biology out of that implant, would it leave an impression?
Yes.
Yes, it would. In fact, it's my first impression, isn't it?
Yes.
And so that impression is a space now that's empty of my biology if I take it out.
Yes.
So what did they do? They replaced my biology with an urn, URN, or the ash of what was once there.
Yeah, wow.
Can you picture an urn with a title representing what was once impressing the uterine wall?
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah. So what they did was what was once there, my biology, they replaced it and they put it back into that impression, that implant, that implantation. Yeah. They call it, what do they call it? Born Alive says the product of conception.
Yes.
So the product of conception is the impression or the implant into the wall of the uterus, and it creates a concave impression or a niche.
Yes.
And in that niche, they place a representative article or something that represents what was once there. And that happens to be the birth certificated character. But here's what's really weird, Linda. It says, literally pertaining to doves. Was Jesus not considered a dove?
Yes. Well, missed that one.
Jesus is the dove of peace.
Yep.
Considered peace, Peace, peace. The dove of peace, or dove representing peace. What's really weird is it says, pertaining to doves from Columba, dove or pigeon. See that? Dove or pigeon. So dove could mean peace, as in the Jesus dove, right?
Yeah.
But now just go to Webster's Online and go to pigeon.
Okay.
Pigeon.
Shit, no.
What does pigeon say?
Any of a widely distributed family, Columbidae, order Columbiformis of birds, with a stout body, rather short legs, and smooth, compact plumage.
Especially a member of any of numerous varieties of the rock dove.
Wow.
The placenta is a rock, isn't it?
Yep.
It's considered a rock or a stone.
A stone.
So they have this rock dove that exists in domestication and in the feral state in cities and towns throughout most of the world. So it's a domesticated rock dove.
Wow.
Rock, placenta, dove, the bird itself. What's really weird is that all of these words always bring you back to the placenta.
Exactly.
Number 2 says a young woman. Number 3 says an easy mark. A dupe. Click on dupe.
One that is easily deceived or cheated. Fool.
A fool. Isn't that what they have us using this mark, this rock dove character? They're fooling us.
Yes.
Into believing something and allowing all of our property and lives to go in trust, to be held in trust by people that are going to do what?
Cheat us.
They're going to cheat us. In fact, they're raiding, RAIDING, they're raiding the Lost Ark.
Yes, absolutely.
They're raiders of the Lost Ark, aren't they?
Yes, fuck yes. They
all
are.
of these people using this ark, this biology, are raiding the Lost Ark. They're pillaging our own inheritance. They're stealing, they're undermining everything by us believing this nonsense.
Wow.
I'm blown away by this myself.
Wow.
They're raiders of the Lost Ark. The ark itself is our extra embryonic material, the stuff that has been presumably pledged. They're raiding that deposit.
Yep.
X across marks the spot.
Yep.
They're Tomb Raiders.
Yes, they are Tomb Raiders. Fuck. Now I'm gonna have to go watch those movies again.
I know, it's right in front of us all over the place. By the way, I mean, even the middle, they call it the Middle Ages in this document, but isn't that not the middle class?
Totally.
It's the middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, you have two other extremes. You have the poor, which are the paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice. That's the poor. But then you have the elite. Yeah. On the two extremes. But in the middle, you have the middle class.
And if you look as arc as the extra embryonic, and you look at arc on, if you look up the word on, the first part of the definition in etymology is in a position above or in contact with, in a position to be supported by, but it's above, and they've put themselves as the archons above to raid.
Well, we are the archons. If we actually know this stuff, we are above the ark. We are overseeing the ark. We are the authority.
Yeah. Unless we abdicate.
I'm claiming to be an archon.
Absolutely. I get it.
Because it's my biology over which I have supreme authority. Exactly. I am a supreme being.
Yes, you are.
Well, so are you.
Yes, I am.
I love talking to you. Okay, next. It says literally. Taken quite literally. I'm going to go to Black's Law real quick, and I'm just going to go to literary property like I do every once in a while. Taken quite literally. So they take my biology, they place it on deposit, and they give me a certificate of deposit.
Yeah.
They call it a birth certificate.
And they say, don't worry, honey, we'll take care of you.
So I'm going to go to literary property.
Do I look under property? I can't remember.
You go under literary.
Okay, literary. Okay.
Literary property. Page 841. Black's Law 5th edition.
I'm there.
May be described as the right which entitles an author and his assigns to all the use and profit of his composition, to which no independent right is through any act or omission on his or their part vested in another person. First of all, from fertilization to last breath, all my biology, 100% of my existence. Is there anybody that has a share in that?
No.
So there is no other person that can actually be. I can't even assign any of my biology to another, can I?
No.
That's why they need to take a piece of me and put it into a collective trust.
Yes.
It goes on to say, to which no independent right is through any act or omission on his or their part vested in another person. Literary property is the exclusive right of the owner to possess, use, and dispose of intellectual productions. The term denotes the corporal property in which an intellectual production is embodied. That means that if I'm wearing that character, my biology, my physical breathing being underneath that character, if I'm wearing the clothing of a character, as long as I have those clothes on, the natural man, the biological living, breathing being underneath those clothes are subject to the owner of those clothes, yes, of that character.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wearing those clothes, whoever owns that character can tell me what to do.
Yep.
Because they're directing, like on stage, they're directing that character.
Yep.
If I'm the sole owner, if I'm the only one that has any rights to all aspects of my existence, can anybody tell me what to do?
Nope.
By the way, private property is an untaxable position. Yes. If everything about me is private, is there anybody, anywhere, that can lay claim or even tax any of my stuff?
Nope.
This is all about reality. John 8:32 says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." This is exactly what it's talking about.
Right, and you can't be half fiction and half real.
Unless I'm an actor on the stage, I can't even play. I mean, if I'm only me,
Yeah.
from fertilization to last breath, I mean, unless I have an agreement or am playing the role of a character in somebody else's story, his story,
Yeah.
I'm fully present, and as I'm fully present, none of the fictitious jurisdictions have any hold on me. For some to read on, it says, for some portions of Europe during that period, the creditor was permitted to levy upon the body of his defunct deceased debtor. So again, if I'm playing both, if I am both the creditor as the biological deposit, the extra embryonic material is my biology, that's on deposit, and that deposit becomes the principal. What's really funny, though, is if I allow my biology to go on deposit, am I living?
No.
No, I can't be. I can't be here if I allow that biological deposit to stand. If I'm giving it all credibility, if I'm living through the birth certificated person, then the biological deposit, the principal, I'm agreeing to that.
Yep.
Which means that I cannot be present.
Yep.
If I have pledged my extra embryonic material to the public trust, then I do not exist in the present.
Yep.
I have allowed myself to fall to his history. I'm a fallen man.
Yep. It's literally all or nothing.
It's literally all or nothing, all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It says that perhaps the easiest position in those primitive states was that of gravedigger of the potter's field, for which, if such were the rights of the creditor, it is hard to imagine any bankrupt deceased becoming a deadweight upon the hands of the state officials. Let me say that again. Bankrupt deceased becoming a dead weight upon the hands of the state officials. Think about that. Potter's Field. Let's go to Potter's Field. Potter's Field.
Am I just doing
Wiki.
this in Wiki? Okay.
I'm just going to Wiki. Potter's Field, pauper's grave or common grave.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. A potter's field is a pauper's field, in other words, nobody with any money, or a common grave.
Mm-hmm.
If they cut off my umbilical cord and they allow it to die,
Mm-hmm.
but they do that with everybody else too, they can put all that biology into one giant common grave, can't they?
Mm-hmm.
A potter's field.
Yep.
So now there's one giant decedent estate. Call it a cemetery plot if you want, or communist plot. It's a communal plot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a communist plot?
Yep.
It's a communist plot. And they can control everybody through this communist plot,
Yep.
can't they?
Yes, they can.
It says, a potter's field, pauper's grave, or common grave is a place for the burial of unknown, unclaimed, or indigent people.
Mm-hmm.
Potter's field is of biblical origin. Okay, so again, unclaimed or indigent. Unclaimed. How many people do you know have ever claimed the first 9 months of their existence?
A handful?
Maybe.
Maybe. Hold on just a second. I got to go close the window. Sorry, I was getting... They're mowing next door, and I'm at the basement level, so I was getting gassed.
At the basement level, you're 6 feet under?
Well, yeah, pretty close.
All right, So we're at Potter's Field.
Potter's Field.
So, and basically it's a common grave.
Mm-hmm.
So the decedent estate that everybody wants or seems to want, they want that account. Kurt, how do we tap into that account? What account? If you're fully present, is there an account beyond the present?
No.
No, they created an account for a decedent. If you're going after some account, the only account that is established is for a decedent. That means you are admitting to the decedent estate, and if there's a decedent estate with your biology, are you living?
Can't be. It's either or.
Well, dead bodies don't have rights.
Nope.
Decedent estates don't have living beings.
Mm-mm.
I mean, and by the way, if you don't have a living body, can they hurt you?
No.
No. Can they chemtrail? Can they chemtrail cemeteries?
Nope.
Can they chemtrail cemeteries?
Well, yes, they can, but
they're not hurting anybody. If there's nobody living,
exactly.
Can they hurt anybody?
No.
Mm-mm. If everybody is in a communal grave, does fluoride have any legal meaning?
No.
Do GMO foods have any legal problems?
Nope.
If there's nobody living today, then they can't hurt anybody.
Mm-mm. No.
If the whole world is fiction. By the way, does Stephen King ever end up in prison for murdering people?
Nope.
No, he's just writing stories of dead bodies and dead people.
Yep.
He doesn't go to jail for that.
Nope.
And neither does anybody in this world, in this fiction. Nobody goes to jail for harming another fiction.
No. It's pretty crazy.
Well, it's just sick.
Well,
anyway, the Potter's Field is a communal cemetery,
yes.
A cemetery plot, a communal plot, and that's where they put all the cut material into one giant communal mass. MASS. It's the mass,
mm-hmm.
and that's what they call it. It's a mass.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this cut material becomes part of the mass.
Yes.
The black mass.
Yes.
Because the black mass is about death.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm going to go to Black Mass right now and see what it says. I don't know that I've ever gone to Black Mass. BLACKMASS Wiki. What is a Black Mass? Black Mass is a ceremony typically celebrated by satanic groups. It has allegedly existed for centuries in different forms and is directly based on a Catholic Mass. By the way, Satan is the proper way to say it, and Satan is nothing more than the administrator.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is they're cutting off a piece of you, letting it die, and then subjecting that decedent estate to the administrative process.
Mm-hmm.
Satan.
Mm-hmm.
So Satan, the administrator, is administrating over your dead body.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're okay with that, keep claiming a birthday.
Yep.
It goes on to say, but conversely, the position of sheriff presented difficulties which we will leave to the reader's kind consideration. Again, these guys are attorneys that wrote this document. I'm going to keep reading. Coming down to present-day adjudications, we find that there is not set, staunch rule governing this matter. Let me read that again. Coming down to present-day adjudications, we find that there is not set, staunch rule governing this matter. Not set, staunch rule. In other words, it's up to us. We make the claim. We direct that theater by our own admissions.
Yes.
Equity presents the only method for remedy or relief in such cases. Why? Why is equity the only method for remedy or relief.
Because you've the equity implies that there is a case that needs to be relieved from that.
Equity implies that your property is in a pool of property.
Yes.
So you have a share of something, which means that the only way you can get justice is through equity because a piece of you is in this pool.
Yes.
So using the term equity implies a share of something.
Yes.
So again, what if you don't claim? What if you don't acknowledge the piece that was cut off? Do you have an equitable position?
No.
Well, yes and no, meaning that even if you don't claim it, it is a matter of fact, they did actually cut it off, and they did put it in there. Mm-hmm. But if you don't claim it, that means that your share goes unclaimed. Mm. And then equity doesn't come into play. And remember, equity does not aid a volunteer.
Right.
So again, if you volunteer, if you don't acknowledge or don't admit to that property, if you don't even remember it,
yeah,
then it's going to be presumed to be voluntary, or it's going to be presumed to be a pledge or a donation.
So how does equity, if you're whole and you're the owner, then how do you interface with equity in the fact that there was a cut?
Well, the fact that it really happened and a piece of you is in this, or presumed to be in this thing, you automatically have equity.
Okay.
And if you automatically have equity, then there will be no deficiency. That means the bill should always get paid. Mm-hmm. That's the problem, is that people don't know how to establish their equitable position in the courtrooms, and then automatically they're in trouble because they don't have equity.
Right.
They don't have equity. The reality is, I'm still using this property.
Yeah.
I'm still using this biology. So even though they really did cut a piece off of me, and it did give rise to this certificate of deposit, which is evidencing a principal deposit, if I know all this, if I write a memoir that evidences this equitable position, then they can never bring me into a lower court. Ever. Because the lower courts are always and only for the donuts, yes. those that have donated their properties to the public.
Yeah.
And they don't have equity. They call those summary judgment.
Yep.
Summary judgment is where you don't have a genuine issue. There's no genuine issue. The genuine issue is that equitable position or that deposit.
Yep.
If there is no deposit, there's no genuine issue. And if there's no genuine issue, it goes to summary judgment just like that.
Yep.
The problem is that even though I'm still using this, and even though I know it goes all the way back, my biology goes all the way back to fertilization, and there is no decedent estate, there is a matter of fact, there is a fact of the cut. And there is a fact of this deposit. There is a fact of this equity. That's all a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to stick with John 8:32. And the truth shall make you free. Mm-hmm. So I shouldn't have to. The truth doesn't need to be defended. I don't have to defend the truth. If that thing has occurred, if that thing exists because of this act of violence, I'm going to go with ex injuria just non orator. An act of violence cannot give rise to such a rule.
Yeah.
But again, it's always about the dead body or the decedent position.
Yep.
It says, staunch rule governing this matter. They are talking about the dead body. They are talking about that cut material, this matter. It says equity presents the only method for remedy or relief. Now, see what they did is they created a world, a situation where equity is required.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because
yeah.
if law was the rule, because remember, there's a law or equity at this point, or law and equity, but law goes all the way back. Law, land, air, and water. If I'm WHOLE, if I'm whole, I am the law. If I'm whole, I don't need a remedy. If I'm whole, I don't need relief. I don't need it. I am the law. I'm the authority.
Yep.
In such cases, and each case is decided solely upon its own merits. Its own merits. The right of sepulcher, sepulture is not absolute, but when in conflict with public policy or where justice demands a subordination, it must yield. The right of sepulture is not absolute. It does say sepulture, right?
Mm-hmm. S-E-P. Yeah.
I'm gonna go to sepulture. Webster's. Sepulture. The act of interment or burial. A sepulcher. Burial, interment, the act of depositing the dead body of a human being in a burial place. So again, the right of sepulture, which is the right of depositing a dead body, is not absolute, but when in conflict with public policy or where justice demands a subordination, it must yield. Okay, so look what it says. It says the right of depositing a dead body must yield if it's in conflict with public policy or where justice demands. Okay, justice is the interesting part of that line, because if I demand justice, and justice goes all the way back to origin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't need to have a piece of me buried. There's no dead body to bury, is there?
Mm-mm.
That's justice.
Hmm.
The Department of Justice, the DOJ, is actually handling this original matter. They call it the Lanham Act. The father's material that was on deposit, the Department of Justice is handling that deposit. So again, it says public policy or where justice demands. Public policy is the insurance policy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The insurance policy only covers the PHI, the protected health information, right?
Yeah.
But that same protected health information is also my origin. It's my original material, the father. So it can either become part of that protected health information, or I become whole. That's justice.
So I looked up staunch above there, staunch rule.
Yeah.
In etymology, and the original definition of it is impervious to water.
Impervious to what?
Water.
What does that tell you?
And eventually the definition is to stand or make or be firm. So it seems that it's the justice is if you know who you are, you're whole and you're impervious to water. You stand on your own, and none of this can. It has to yield to the justice.
Okay, I got it. Make it easier, though.
Okay.
Make it easier. Jesus walked on water.
Yeah.
Jesus walked on water, which means water. He was impervious to water.
Uh-huh.
Impervious to water.
So
that means that we can't be damaged by water. We can't drown.
Uh-huh.
So in the womb where we existed,
uh-huh,
we couldn't drown.
No.
Hell, we were immersed in water.
Right.
And we still didn't drown.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm getting at is we were impervious. Water didn't kill us.
Yes.
But that was the material in the womb that protected us from all that. What happens when we abandon that material?
We're no longer impervious to water.
Right, now we can drown, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
So the vessel that we were in is the boat. It's the thing that walks on water. That vessel was abandoned by us when we allowed that cut material to be left behind.
Yeah.
That is what was impervious to water.
That the matter was, yes.
The
okay.
matter
Got it.
that case
Mm-hmm.
is impervious to water.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is in an admiralty court action, which is nothing but water.
Mm-hmm.
That's the case.
Yeah.
That's the boat. That's the vessel. Can you drown when you're impervious to water?
No.
No. When you're whole, can you drown?
No.
No, because you have the very boat, the Ark of the Covenant with God. You can't drown.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't physically drown. I mean, I could be found dead in a pool,
right.
even if I'm whole.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that on paper,
mm-hmm.
and in admiralty courts, I'm seen differently if I'm impervious to water. So it says, in that sentence you just brought back, it says, coming down to present day adjudications, we find that there is not set, staunch rule governing this matter, when in fact there is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been cut off of us.
Yeah.
So by having it cut off of us, it raises the question. And that question is, are we the character on the paper, or are we the indigenous pagan on the land? And if we're the indigenous pagan on the land, we are subject to the doctrine of discovery, and the Roman Catholic Church and all our property is held in trust. Mm-hmm. They call it a reserve.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're whole, W-H-O-L-E, then all of that property that they're presuming to hold for us is ours.
Yes.
And if it's ours, we have equity. Mm-hmm. And if we have equity, then all these lower courts and summary judgments are out the window.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm getting at, is that when you're W-H-O-L-E, you don't need to be put back together. You don't need a middleman. You don't need to be converted or have any of your property converted to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Because we are never actually in the fiction. So when those fictitious courts find us where we have to pay a fine or whatever, all they would do is they would tap into this fictional account
mm-hmm.
and take the money out. We are not subject to the fictitious realm.
Right.
The character that they created off of this deposit, off of this principle, this title, is subject to the fiction, but we are not. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so important to learn that the dead body, the dead position, the decedent estate is so damaging.
Yeah.
And that you don't really want to get the money from that account.
Mm-mm.
Or control the money from that account, because that account evidences a decedent estate, and if that decedent estate exists, you do not.
Exactly.
And you don't have any rights. Mm-hmm. So you keep going after the money, but that's basically the monkey holding onto a banana that is inside the cage.
Yep.
You are now in the cage indirectly
yep.
by your unwillingness to let go of the banana, the
yep.
decedent estate.
Yep.
That's how they capture you.
Yep.
Next page. In determining interests, the courts exercise such jurisdictions as they are wont to apply. The case of minors, infants, or spendthrifts. Minors, infants, or spendthrifts. The case.
Yep.
So the cut material never gets beyond year one, because you keep celebrating the first birthday. So that's every 365 days. That is a minor account.
Yep.
It never reaches the age of majority, does it?
Nope.
It also remains in the stage of infancy.
Yep.
It never progresses past infancy. It actually is arrested development.
Yes.
It's an arrest. That material is always under arrest, isn't it?
Yes.
Or spendthrift. What's a spendthrift? I'm going to go to it. I have etymology open right now. I'm just going to put spendthrift in there. By the way, nice find for staunch. That's huge. Spendthrift. From the 1600s. In the sense of savings, profits, or wealth. Spendthrift. Savings, profits, or wealth. I'm going to go to Webster's real quick because I know that spendthrift will be made more clear there. Wikipedia says a spendthrift is someone who is extravagant and recklessly wasteful with money, often to the point where the spending climbs well beyond his or her means. Does that sound like credit, an extension of credit?
Yep.
If you're spending beyond your means, if you need credit, it's because you're not living within your means.
Yep.
That's a spendthrift. So look what it says here. In determining interests, the courts exercise such jurisdiction as they are wont to apply in the case of minors, infants, or spendthrifts. There it is right there.
Mm-hmm.
The cut material is all of that.
Yep.
And if you're using credit, you're considered a spendthrift as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're living beyond your means, that's a spendthrift. By the way, it's almost impossible at this point because when they took money out of the equation, when they took all the money away and gave everybody a certificate of deposit to use as a method of credit, they made everybody a spendthrift.
Yeah.
And now there's no way around it. So if you're using the birth certificated person, it evidences a spendthrift. By the way, that's why they talk about the public debt being, in the trillions. And that's why the 14th Amendment says the public debt shall not be questioned. Because the 14th Amendment citizen is the boat or the vessel in the public.
Yeah.
And so they're saying that the public debt cannot be questioned because they rely on all the blood sacrifices, all the people to remain indebted to that public policy or that public debt.
Yes.
Bound, I should say, to the public debt.
Mm-hmm. Bonded.
As a servant.
Bonded to it.
Bonded to the debt, yeah. So like an anchor.
Uh-huh.
It's like dragging around a dead body. I mean, this is weekend at Bernie's, but it's your entire life.
Yeah.
You're dragging around your dead body your whole life and realizing that this anchor, by the way, this is where people get confused. But Kurt, you're saying that you're all one with that, but and that the umbilical cord is part of, yes, it is, but we don't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to remember something. It's one thing to remember something. I remember my godly origin. I remember it. I don't remember it personally, but I know that it happened because every embryologist on planet Earth would say, yes, Kurt, you're a product of fertilization. So that means the first 9 months in the womb, I came from the zygote. I came from the act of God called fertilization.
Correct.
There it is. That's knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where people get confused. So, Kurt, when you say that we came from fertilization, are you reconnecting to that? No, I'm not. I'm remembering where I came from, but I don't need that material outside the womb anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I do not require that extra embryonic material to cover me.
Mm-hmm.
I breathe out here on my own. I have come out of her. I have come out of the mother. The problem is that they took that material and they placed it on deposit as a pledge. They took my biology on deposit as a pledge.
Yep.
That's the entire system of money.
Yep.
They're using my ability to produce in the present to pay for all of that Gregorian calendar past.
Yep.
My energy.
Yep.
This is all about energy.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the 1930s they created the Atomic Energy Commission.
Yes.
atomic, A-T-O-M, also spelled A-D-A-M, atom.
Yep.
When they split the atom, A-D-A-M, they did it by cutting the umbilical. When they cut the umbilical, what did they do? They released all of my future energy to be picked up through the Atomic Energy Commission.
Yep.
Now they control all my energy in the future, which is nothing more than the present to the living being.
Yep.
But if their world is in the past, then our present is the future. So they're actually dealing in futures from that position, where in reality, the reality is the present. They're calling it the future.
It
Are
is.
you mixed up?
No, it just is. I mean, you can see how people can just spin on this because it's so circular and insane.
Well, and the problem is the birth certificated person is frozen in time in the past and living in the past, which is an oxymoron. You can't live